So, Pap, of course, this week we saw President Obama's State of the Union address. It was not his final one, but in some respects, it was the one that was the last one he'll deliver that's not going to be implicated by an election, although maybe it was. And it was his first one that he's given when facing a Congress that was dominated by Republicans. I don't know. What was your take on it?
The headline we ran today, we've run all week on the Obama speech, was that the body snatchers have returned Obama's corpus, and that's the guy we voted for. And I was amazed as I was sitting there listening to equal pay for women, paid sick leave for workers, minimum wage increase, cleaner air, cleaner water, better infrastructure. It was perfect. I mean, it was perfect. He did a great job. But as you're sitting there listening, he knows, and everybody watching knows, that it's virtually impossible to accomplish even a fraction of this when you wait 7 years. You can't wait 7 years. And so he knows now, why doesn't he do this when we have Democratic chances? You know, we've got completely Republican game here right now. So I think it was really done more for the presidential race that's coming up. I mean, you know, the progressives are abandoning the party, rightly so. They're becoming more independent. They're moving. You've got progressives voting in, you know, they're just registering independent. The Democrats see that happening. This is his way of kind of bringing that back. Sam, there's no surprise here. The guy has the ability to deliver a great speech. But then you have to say, okay, what happened 3 months later? And that's always been the problem here. You see, what happens 3 months later? And so I don't think anybody watching it seriously thought that today the Democrats were going to shame the Republicans, and the Republicans are going to come back and in a shamed kind of way say, oh, gee whiz, we have to do the right thing for the American public. He knew that when he was delivering the speeches, but I think he sets the Republicans up pretty well, Sam. I think what he does is he says, look, I'm setting the agenda. Let's let our opponents vote all of it down, and maybe we'll have something to talk about in 2016.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was both frustrating and in some ways, satisfying. Frustrating for the reasons that you said, that it would have been nice to have seen this earlier. It was satisfying insofar as it was an unapologetic presentation of policies that make sense. Frustrating in the sense that we know these things may not be implemented. Let me nitpick for a moment, though, Pap, because I think you're right that what he was doing here was setting an agenda. There's some people, and we got to remember, we know that Hillary Clinton's campaign is going to be run by a guy who's been working out of the Obama administration. So there's every reason to believe that the agenda he set out there is one which Hillary Clinton, assuming that she does run, which is I think a fairly safe assumption at this point. I don't think I'm getting out ahead of myself. So this is an agenda that Hillary Clinton is interested in embracing. Of course, we're going to see more of this next year, but this is laying the groundwork. And before we get to the aspects of we saw the Republicans sort of adopt this, and what is driving this, I got a nitpick about this, and I have a feeling that you're going to agree with me, because if we take it on that level, like, here's President Obama unshackled from his own electoral fortunes. Here's President Obama finally free to espouse his vision for America. He returns to that rhetoric of 2004 in the Democratic convention. You and I were both there.
Exactly.
We walked out. And
smart.
I got to say, I know to some ears it sounds good, but when he says at the end of the speech, he says, If we're going to have arguments, let's have arguments. We still may not agree on a woman's right to choose, but surely we can agree it's a good thing that teen pregnancies and abortions are nearing all-time lows. The fact of the matter is, you and I know that on the right, they don't agree with that because they're concerned about constricting a woman's sovereignty over her own body.
They're not going to agree to anything. That's the point. They're just not.
But they're not even. See, he's trying to make the argument, and he says it with immigration. We can all agree that a hardworking mom taken from her child is wrong. No, they don't agree with that. We may go out at a campaign season, but we can agree that the right to vote is sacred. That's part of their electoral strategy, for gosh sakes.
Your point being is, why do you say we can agree when we know we can't, when we know that we're in a war, that he only has a year and a half left to do anything meaningful, that is virtually impossible, that we're all going to say, of course, his favorable is going to go up, his legacy, he's not going to leave office looking quite so bad as George Bush if he can maintain. But again, where does this really take him, Sam? I mean, what does this do other than that? Now, the good thing is, I think you were pointing out, we saw the right kind of adopt part of these talking points. I would call them the opportunity crusaders, and that is we must, Mitt Romney, we must take care of poor people.
Right.
So all of a sudden we see the Republicans trying to embrace this. It looks so ridiculous, but the American public is so frigging stupid that they might buy it. So he gets on and he gives this speech and he says, we have this high ground. And so now we have this high ground. Now you be the ones that vote down equal pay for women. You be the ones, Republicans, that vote down paid sick leave and minimum wage and clean air and clean water. You, Republicans, vote down Social Security enhancements. He set all that up. So that's the best that came out of it. Unfortunately, to me, when I really look at this thing, Hillary's going to say all these things, and she's not going to deliver. He said all these things twice. He said them all when he had control of both houses, at least of the Senate. And still, he failed to deliver. Now we're at the 11th hour, and he wants to come out with this great legacy as a speaker. He's a great speaker. That's where I leave it.